Welcome back to I Might Be Late on Monday. I know it's Tuesday, but that's why I named it I Might Be Late on Monday. Sometimes I might not get to it on Monday, but I'm here. I've gotten to it. Forgive me. So, today's episode, I Might Be Late on Monday. Like and subscribe if you're watching, if you're tuning in right now. But on today's episode of I Might Be Late on Monday, I wanted to talk about a story I've seen about DeAndre Ayton, which is a center for the Los Angeles Lakers, just recently signed to the Los Angeles Lakers. Sorry, I was just not crying. But DeAndre Ayton is in the news for allegedly leaving a young lady, like an IG model, stranded in Turks and Caicos because she wouldn't have sex with them. To me, especially the older I get, I don't understand. I don't understand how that's a story. I don't understand how that's shocking, or somehow that shines a bad light on DeAndre Ayton. Now, see, now we're in the space now where we're not able to be honest, or we're so PC, politically correct, that we don't ask honest questions. Because I'm kind of old school. I'm kind of old school. When I was 18, the first time I went like on a date where it's my own money. I got there. I picked the girl up like a traditional date. I was like 18 or 19, and I, I met this woman there, and she was like, she had cash, and somehow it came up. We were talking about, well, why'd you bring cash? Like, why'd you bring so much cash? And which wasn't a lot of cash, but at the time it was for like two 18-year-olds to just have that cash. She was like, well, my mom told me to never go anywhere on a date or with a man and not have enough money to cover myself and be able to pay for myself a way home, a cab home. And I was like, huh, that makes sense. Because as a woman, of the fairer sex, you should never put yourself in a position where you are at the mercy of someone else, not just a man, but anyone else, to be out and can't get home, or can't eat, or can't be somewhere safe if you don't acquiesce to that man's whim or desire or need, whatever the fuck. And so this DeAndre Ayton thing goes up, and it kind of goes viral, and I think 15 years from before previous, or 15 years ago, we'd never see anything weird about this. We'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, why would she go to Turks and Caicos? Why you allow somebody to fly you out to Turks and Caicos and you have no sexual interest, or you have no like idea that sex may be required or involved in that transaction. See, we're in an interesting space where you're not allowed to ask honest questions, because the reality is, if I fly you on an expensive vacation, the assumption is that we're going to act as lovebirds, right? We're going to stay in the same hotel. We're going to, right? But that's on, and this is not to bash that young lady. I don't know that young lady, because it's the same for DeAndre Ayton. I wouldn't fly anybody out who didn't already understand the program. Now, granted, context matters, and DeAndre Ayton is a multi-millionaire, very wealthy, successful, 6'11" athletic specimen. So obviously, any woman that he hitting up, he's leading with, I have money, I have means, and I can basically fly any woman I want out. And it's to be understood that if I fly you out, or if I give you gifts, or I give you anything, it's going to require me to get what I would like from you. And in most cases, what you have to offer is between your legs. if you are in a position where you are willing to fly out to a place to get to know each other, you get to know each other over coffee or a drink or a nice dinner, not in another country in a big, rather expensive destination spot, right? So we we're like this interesting space where we're not able to have honest conversation. We're not able to say, hey, you shouldn't fly out with that guy if you don't intend to have sex with him. Granted, DeAndre Ayton should be clear and say, hey, if you fly out, what's going to happen? But also from that standpoint of him feeling like I shouldn't have to say that because what's understood doesn't need to be said. But in the world of Me Too and also Diddy Rico and all these instances where you have to be super duper specific on what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it at all times. Especially if it's for it's just for sex or to have a good time. I think we should all be intentional now. I think it's important that we are intentional at all times. And and I'm taking this story, of course, at face value because obviously the internet is not a real place, and sometimes and perhaps she went there and they had a falling out that had nothing to do with him not getting sex, and she used this as a moment to like put it on the internet for clicks and I guess clout, as they would say. So based on the so I'm just only giving commentary based on the actual report, and the report is he flew out to Turks and Caicos. They're having a good time. She declined sex. She say, "Well, find your way home," which is, I guess, fucked up to get somebody out there and then have them find their way home. Understood. I definitely get it. And that is fucked up. And not something that I would necessarily do. However, it goes back to my story about my first date. You should never go somewhere if you can't afford to get yourself back. Even if somebody offers you to pay your way or somebody offered to get you there and get you back, you should never be in a position where you have to depend on someone to do that, especially if you've never met them before, you don't really know them. Especially if you know that the interaction is going to be sexual in nature or it's going to be assumed. Because there's a such thing as an assumed risk. You assume that if this person flies me out, he's going to want something from me. What I have for him to want from me is my sex, especially if he's a high earning man who's used to being able to get whatever he wants based on being a high earning man. Because it's not because it and let's go into like being a high earning man too, or just having something going for yourself. Because it's not always the fact that he can give you something that makes a woman attractive. Sometimes women are like IVs. They just don't want to feel like they're pumping in vain. They don't, or should I say, they don't want to be an IV, and so they'll interact. They'll have sex, or they'll be with the man who just has something going for himself, even if they can't have any of it, just because he has one, even if he ain't giving them none. So I think at best to be flown out and not expect to have sex or feel like now okay so let me also say this. You are, as a woman, you are allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to preserve your body. You're allowed to say, no, I don't want to have sex. And I tell people this all the time when I'm explaining rape culture to people. I could be, you can be butt naked in a space and told me all kind of nasty stuff you're going to do to me when you saw me. We can even be engaged in a sexual act. The moment you say no, the answer is always no. So let me be very clear about that. You are allowed at any time and at all times to be able to say, no, I'm cool on that. I don't want to have sex, and then that's the end of that interaction. That's the way it should be, and you are well within your rights to do so. Now, with that being said, there's a consequence in everything you do. So even if in your so even in you exercising your right to say no, the consequence in that is you may have to find your own way home. And I think these conversations get conflated with having the ability to say no, and also for things to happen, and for you to for you to remove whatever play you had of leverage from the conversation and expect to still get the same deal is an asinine idea. It's like going into a negotiation to sign a deal, and you say and they say, hey, we'll give you $1 million if you run down a major intersection butt naked. And if you agree to those terms, and then you say, nah, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. I have self respect. I'm not going to run down that intersection butt naked. But I still would like the $1 million. It just doesn't work that way. In any other case or any other rate, it wouldn't work that way. It wouldn't even make sense to even ask that. So for anyone to feel like, hey, and like I said, even if you didn't verbally say, hey, we fucking when you get here, which perhaps he didn't, we're adults. We know that that comes with something. Nothing in life is free. So even if it wasn't stated on his end, you do have a duty to yourself if somebody's flying you out to say, hey, I ain't giving up no coochie when I come out there. And then if he still brings you over and still tries, and you say no, and you say, well, fuck it, you need to find your way home, that's fucked up. But there is some kind of onus on both parties to be clear in your intentions and be very intentional. This isn't a moral diatribe about not flying out or not having sex or not meeting some rich man you want to have a good. We're human and we have carnal urges and we want to have a good time. Nothing wrong with having sex as long as you're safe, protect yourself, do it right. But it is important that you exercise common sense and discernment. So even if you went out there with all the best intentions to give up the coochie and you decided not to, you didn't like him, his breath stank, he was too tall, he was too aggressive, he was distant, he didn't know how to do foreplay, he didn't interest you in the conversation, he just went straight to it, and you said, nah, I'm cool on that. Well within your rights. But you should also assess that before you get on the plane and say, hey, if I decide at the last minute, or even if I don't decide at the last minute, even if I do give him the coochie and he still don't follow through on getting me back home or making sure I'm straight, I should be able to not to fly myself home and then blast this guy and say, man, this motherfucker did this again. It's like I was watching the clips going viral about DDG and Ben the Don, and they're on a yacht, and the girl was ordering food. She ordered $300 worth of food, and Ben is like, hey, pay for your card. I'm gonna send you the money. Which happens with people who make fast money. Like I'm friends with a lot of people who have money or have fast money, and they'll be like, "Yo, do this, and then I'll send you the money," you know. And that's kind of like a thing about being in those areas where people are making fast money and spending money fast. We ain't really counting favors or trying to figure out who's paying for what. And if I owe you, I'm gonna owe you. I'm gonna send it to you. If I don't send it to you, then so what? You had the money anyway. But anyway, Ben like, yo, just put it on your card and I'll send you the money. And she was like, yo, I don't have that money, right? And Ben says, hey, Dad, if you don't got $150, but you probably shouldn't be on nobody's yacht. You probably should be working. And that shit went viral. Like, oh, how could he say that? And yeah, they invited her on the yacht. So why should you have money? And that's the thought process and thinking that's fucked up and that's gonna get you in the world of trouble. Is you are looking to be a damsel in distress and an independent woman at the same time, and it kind of just doesn't work that way. You can't be at the mercy of men spending money, or you just want to be around men who spend money and buy things and all this kind of stuff. Everything comes with, even if because granted, I'm a Leo. I pie, I do those kind of things. I like to be around women all the time. Women all the time. A lot of my friends are women, and it's not always sexual. It's rarely sexual unless that's the kind of time we're on. So every man is not just doing nice things to you, nice things for you to get in your pants. However, you should approach it that way. You should approach it like, if it feels, especially if it's a new burgeoning friendship or relationship or knowing of each other. If it's the first time or the first few times you hang out with a guy and he's being generous with his money and with his time, if you're not in a space where you like him in that way, or you don't see yourself being able to like him in that way, it's important to say, hey, we just friends, right? Or I don't want to take something from you and you require something of me, because if that's the case, then I won't take anything from you. Because, like I said, there are instances where I'm just in women's company and we're having a good time, and I'm and whatever we're doing there, if I'm funding it, is just to to subsidize the whole vibe and the mood, and it doesn't. And I was going to probably do this if it was just me and the homies anyway, or we were going to do this with just me and the homies anyway, and because you guys are the fair sex, you guys are bringing a certain level of vibe or ambiance to us. We gonna enjoy it. We gonna enjoy it. We gonna make sure that you're having a good time, and we're gonna be hospitable. We're gonna be hosts. When it comes to a point, now, granted, in this scenario, we gonna take care of everything. But as a woman, you don't know that. Especially if we ain't friends, you never been around us before. You don't know what your payment will be for this. A lot of times, your payment is just your company, but you're paying with something. And if it's not discussed beforehand, sometimes you don't get to choose what that expected payment is. And that doesn't mean that you're obligated to give someone sex, but you are obligated to take whatever consequence comes with not giving up sex. That doesn't mean allowing yourself to be raped or being coerced into having sex, but it means that if that person who is funding that excursion or that getaway or that yacht trip says, all right, if you ain't fucking, you need to go home, and I don't know how you're gonna get there, but I'm not paying for it. That's fucked up. But we ain't talking about what's morally correct or what's the nice or G way to or P way to behave. I'm just telling you that there's gonna be a consequence in every action. And so, and of course, this may be a man and a woman disconnect, because men think in a tactical way. That we think like, okay, if this happens, what then I should be prepared for this. If this happens, I should be prepared for this. At least a man with some sense or logic about himself should think like that. I think like that. Hey, if you do this, this is gonna happen. And so, just like if a woman flew me out, God forbid, I know that's going to come with me letting her enjoy me in whichever way that she chooses to enjoy me. She want to have sex with me. She want my company. She want to go to dinner. She's going to enjoy me in that way, no matter what. Now she'd be like, "Hey, let me put this up your ass," and I'd be like, "Oh fuck no, that's why I draw the line. You ain't put nothing in me or anything like that." Or she'd be like, "Take the condom off." I'm not taking the condom off. None of these things. Then she can say, "All right, then fine. Get your ass back to Florida, and however you get there is your business." I can't then cry foul because there is a consequence in me declining for whatever reason, self-respect, dignity. I just wasn't feeling no more. She stunk. You know, she wanted her husband to wife, whatever the case may be. No matter what my reasoning was, whether it be right or wrong, it's not about a right or wrong at that moment. It's I have now chosen that I'm not going to do this, and whatever comes with me not doing it is just what is par for the course. You understand? And so that's an important distinction, even with the Ben the Dunn situation, even with this situation. And these situations sprout up every year, especially during the flew out culture, which I thought would probably die. Well, I didn't think it was gonna die out, but with Diddy being indicted and going through Rico for what he was going through Rico, people realized that hey, you can't fly bitches out to have sex with them, or even dudes, you can't fly dudes out to have sex with the girls, which is what Diddy was to it. But and ever since this fly out culture has been mainstream for the last 7, 8, 9 years, these stories pop up where the time with Future, the girl brought herself out on her own dime. Future got her own hotel, and because she didn't want to have a hotel, because she did the right thing where she didn't want to be at Future's mercy, so she brought her own hotel, flew herself out. So if she decided, y'all don't want to have sex, he can be, I can have my own shit, and I ain't relying on you. And then Future texted her, "I'm good, love, enjoy." And that was like a meme, and that's been going around for like 10 years almost. But that is the adult way to handle it. Future can decide, hey, if you ain't fucking, then enjoy your trip here. I ain't reimbursing you nothing. Cause she wanted reimbursement in that instant, I remember, but he's like, I'm not reimbursing you anything. I didn't tell you to fly on your own dime. You chose to, which is great. And you was put. I wanted you here so that we can enjoy this company, and that may lead to sex. Because that's also another thing. Sometimes these interactions don't have to lead in sex. It can, but like I said before, as I explained earlier, you are going there to fulfill whatever transaction that requires. I could just it could be just company, or you supposed to take. I think you supposed to escort me to an event. Dealing with somebody who of means. But if you're in Turks Caicos is a vacation destination, a romantic vacation destination. You don't fly friends out. You don't fly strangers out unless you fuck your friends or strangers or both. Let's stop pretending these things, man. Let's stop conflating these things because it's important that we're honest with each other. It's important that we don't gaslight these situations and be like, oh, I can't believe he left me here because I didn't want to have sex with him. Yes, duh. As an adult woman, if you're flying out anywhere, if somebody is flying you to another state, another city, another country, another planet, assume that they're going to want sex. If that's not what you into, before you go anywhere, before you accept gifts or accept the flight, accept the hotel room, say, hey, what am I paying you with? My time, my sex, my company, or do I just be just giving you the money? Physics, the shit ain't. But as always, man, I might be late on Monday. I don't know, but I don't want no trouble. Tell me what you think in the comments. Hit like and subscribe. Comment, share this live. As always, if you when you like and you comment and you share, it helps the algorithm pick it up. It helps more people see it. It helps more people enjoy it, and it helps my channel build my channel, and all those great things. Which is why I ask you like, subscribe, share, beat it up in the comments. Let me know what you think. And as always, I see y'all next week.